So yeah, so this is the module for the connectivity. So you have a start server function and you have a start client function. And that's it. It's not using multi-threading, so this is basically useless, because if you start these, then you're going to kill your program in terms of it's just going to be stuck, right? So we need multi-threading for that to be useful. And then I have the Our OMS, which is, so this is order entry, really super crude. But all I'm doing is basically integrating what we did before, which is the ability for you to enter a tag value pair. It's doing input raw, and you can also change the value later on. Enter new message type. So that's all. So I just set it up as a module that you can import via the library. And then we have so OMS connectivity. So the dictionary, I guess that's the conversion. So this converts this tag value pair into a dictionary format. So it's doing the mapping. So import regular expression. It takes tag value. So you got this format, right? Map for item in INP. Doing a split on the equal sign. And that should result in a dictionary. So again, same as we had before, just now integrated as part of a package, and you can import that. So that's the dictionary, the connectivity, fixed validator. Is that what we just looked at? Man, I need a power nap so bad right now. Validator. So I guess this is different. The validator is making sure that these are valid fixed messages. So we can import this function and use it anywhere in our code whenever we want to verify that a fixed message is valid. So if whatever you input is not this, so I got to figure out the logic of this. Like, how do we do a validation on all the fixed messages? I mean, I guess in theory, I don't know, man. I guess I'd have a class file for each. So there's two types of checks, right? There's session level, and then there's so there's is this message formatted appropriately for the message type? Each message type has certain tag value pairs that go with it. So each message type would be like a class, right? So we could do a class verification where you can enter a tag and value pair that's not defined in the class, and we can have an error message that says out of range or something. And then we can also have a check that looks for formatting. It should be tag value pairs which are delimited by the SOH character. So if you deviate from that format, we don't care what the tags are, we don't care what the values are per se. Maybe we want to check that as well. Actually, we should, right? So mainly check that it's a tag value pair format with the appropriate delimiter. So the basic structure is good, right? And then we can check it based on message type. So there's two types of checks. Is this even a valid fixed message? Oh, it is? Okay. Is it a valid whatever the message type? So it's an order? Okay. Look at the order class and see all the tag value pairs. Are they there? Are all the required tag value pairs there? Do you have any tag value pair that is not part of the class? So I can prompt you and say out of range or something like that. And I'm burning my breakfast. Oh man, no. So the main, I wanted to look at the main menu. So the main menu would not be here because this is the package, right? Our fixed library, that's our library, that's a package, all those different pieces. In the integration folder, then we have our fix PY. So our fix PY should be the central code here. So let's open that up. Hey, Nick, can you tell me about Olivia Z imports? We import the connectivity module with the alias of OFL. Got some nice comments here so we know what's going on. Connectivity library, OMS library, fixed validator, and fixed to dictionary. So these are all libraries, so let's be a little bit consistent. Connectivity lib, OMS lib, fixed validator lib, fixed to dict lib. There we go. A little cleaner. And then here's the menu system, which does not work yet. This should be pretty easy for me to do. I just need to add some flow control, some conditionals in here. So you can choose your options. And I need to obviously read or check, what the user inputs, right? So I need the user to be able to input these, press 2, press 3. I don't know if there's an auto select option. I don't think that was available in Bash, which was annoying, because auto selection is awesome, right? If I have a menu system, I mean, you gotta think about your design as well, right? One of the things I know that I have to be aware of is you have to sort of extrapolate where things might go. Don't get too focused on where you think they're going or where you think they are. Think about where they might go. For example, right now this is a small product which only has a few options. The option would always be just like a single character, right? Press 1 for this, 2 for that, 3 for this, whatever, right? But what if down the line we end up with 12 things, right? Then the auto selection would be a problem, because if you can't press 12, because when you press 1, it automatically would select 1. I mean, there's a way around that. I mean, I really, I would be shocked if this cannot be done in Python. This is Python. That's one of the advantages of going from, shell scripting to Python, is you have this kind of power. So I'm pretty sure there should be an easy way to do an auto select, and I can easily address that problem that I just identified by giving a timer. So whenever you press a character, so it gives you the menu. Whenever you press the character, it should start a timer, right? So you have about, let me see, click, 1, 2. You have like, that's going to introduce a delay in the application. See, that's why GUI is great, right? And we'll probably do a GUI down the line. See, again, think about that stuff. Are you gonna go GUI later on? Think in terms of what that would mean, how would that change things? But without a GUI, the problem with the timer thing is, so you're gonna wait 2 seconds. That means the application is gonna have a delay of 2 seconds. The menu is gonna have a delay of 2 seconds. So you can't just, you can use letters. If you use numbers, then you're limited to 9 single digits. After 9, then you have a second digit, so that's a problem, depending on what you're doing. But if you use letters, you have 26 letters in the alphabet, so it's probably better to use letter options, right? So as long as this program never has more than 26 options, then an auto select option should be fine. So what I might do is put an auto select in there for now and put a note next to it that a sub 27 item menu greater than 26 item menus not supported. Auto select not supported for menus greater than 26 items, right? So as this grows, we'll have this note that reminds us if we have that many options, and auto select is not going to be a valid option. But anyway, I like that idea. I want to just like, you press 1, boom, it does something. I mean, especially with designing a trading platform. I mean, initially it's going to be very crude, but we want to start thinking ahead. Speed and efficiency are going to be critical for this thing to sort of make sense. And I think therein also lies a unique advantage that we're going to get from doing this project in terms of educationally, because when you're learning and you're not developing things for a production environment, you can get away with a lot of things that won't work. So for example, inefficient loops, taking up too much resources, a lot of different things. What if it fails in the middle of, Like there's a lot of things that you need to address in a production environment that when you're doing some side project, it doesn't apply. So you miss these skills. So when you get in an environment where you need to work on production systems, your lack of experience with these factors is going to sort of make you lesser of a developer. So I think this is great because we're going to try to adhere to production standards as much as possible. And with the trading platform, efficiency will be paramount. So now, unlike the typical, projects that you do in GitHub just for practice, where all you care about is that it does what it's supposed to do, now we care about how well it does it in terms of you want it to be lightweight as possible, so it's not taking up a lot of system resources, and you want it to be fast. So, bad loops and just bad program design is going to be something we want to stay away from. So this is going to challenge us. So when we get this thing actually working, we're going to want to do some kind of testing to see performance testing to see how quickly it's going, how quickly it's running. And then we can sort of set a benchmark and then do like a goal. So right now we can process a certain amount of messages per second. These operations are taking this amount of time. So how can we make it faster? And then we analyze the code. Is there a better way to do this? Why are we doing this loop? Why are we manipulating a file? Can we not store this in memory where it can be faster to access and update? Why are we doing separate processes? Right? And that's something that we covered recently. Why are we doing separate processes where it's more resource intensive, right? Because you have a separate process that's using separate resources, right? This process has certain memory allocated to it and certain, data allocated to it. And then this other one as well. And then you have the spawning time where you have to spawn this process and spawn that process. Why are we not doing thing on our agenda right now, multi-threading, right? Why are we not doing a single process and spawning multiple threads that we can run concurrently using less memory? See, things like that are things that are gonna come into play as we work on the design. So anyway, let me just run through this real quick. So that's our menu that doesn't work yet. I'm gonna do that maybe later today if I have time. I want to do a lot of database work today, so we're changing. So these are a bunch of notes. So these are the notes of like what I've gotten done so far. So I created a little sandbox area. Since the menu is not functional, basically the sandbox area does an auto selection. So for example, when I wanted to test the start OMS, right, function, I just have it like that. So you would start this up, it would do all the imports, create all the aliases, and then the menu does nothing. And then it would go down here and you would call that function from the OOL, which is order, what is that? Our OMS. Yeah, that's our OMS library. See, I try to make the naming something that makes sense so it's easy to understand. Because look at that, like I was able to figure it out just knowing the system that I created, right? Which I find to be logical. Hopefully it's logical to other developers as well. But so it's our OMS library, our fix library, fix validator library. By having this here, every time you run this, it's going to automatically call this and I can see if it works or not. Then once I verify that it works, then I just comment it out and I say, this works. This works, this works, right? So that's what that is. I need to figure out how to make the connectivity library usable by using multi-threading, which I'm not using right now. So you see it says this should be working, can't test sans multi-threading. So without multi-threading, I can't test it, because what happens is once you start this, then you lose control of the application. So for example, I could test it right now. If I do that, CPI. There you go. So there's our menu. CPA, CPU squad, CPA's product, choose option below. But I gotta build the schema and everything. I don't think I have a schema yet. New database. So yes, I gotta put that together. I had some stuff from before, which I think in Emma. So in Emma, I did some basic. This is from a while ago. So I had MySQL. I got an executions table. I got an orders table. And I think that's it for now. But this is sort of where we're headed. This is a very, very simplistic version. I mean, we need a lot more than just message type, symbol, order ID, side, quantity, order type. But this is the kind of thing we need to get done. And then we need to be able to talk to the database. So I have not done that yet. I need to figure out how to send queries to the database. So I'll be able to actually do inserts and updates. So I think what I'll do is I'll build something that does like basically build like a SQL interface where you will have the ability to put things in a database, do updates and inserts. By figuring that out, I will be able to sort of know what needs to be done for our application to have a database and be able to write to the database and so on and so forth. So anyways, that's where we're at. I'm gonna go take a break before my brain gets fried. I did 14 hours of coding straight yesterday, and then I've been up since 5. It is 1 p.m. and I have been coding for over 7 hours straight. That's in addition to the hours that I put in yesterday. Let me see what you're saying, Nick. And Nick, once again, really appreciate your support and contributions, keeping the Trello board up to date. I'm trying to develop good habits. I think some of the mistakes that I think some new folks make that I've seen is that you are only, it's sort of tunnel vision. You are building code for you, right? You have a task that you're trying to accomplish. I want to build something that does X, Y, and Z. So your focus is entirely on building something that does X, Y, and Z, but your code in a professional environment doesn't exist in a vacuum. You're not creating it just for you to use. You're creating it for a company, for a team, for an environment. So you have to think about things like portability. You don't want to be building it in a strange, quote unquote, strange shell like C shell, unless the environment is C shell native. You want to be using the native shell of the environment. So typically you want to do bash. You want to make sure that the kinds of things that you're doing, the types of commands that you're using are very portable. You don't want them to be where, it works on your system, doesn't work on somebody else's system. So you have things like that. But more specifically to the point that you reference is the neatness, because you are the one who spent a lot of time and hours going through the code. Ideally, you know it inside and out because you built it and you spent a lot of time looking at it. Now, another developer looks at it, he doesn't have that context. He or she doesn't have that context. So, it can be really frustrating to try and look at someone else's code without good notes and it's not formatted properly. And it's just kind of a mess. So on top of you trying to figure out what the program is supposed to be doing and what the person's trying to do, what methods they're choosing to do them with, you have to also sort of break down or try to process a mess. It's not formatted properly, not a lot of good comments. It just, there aren't spaces where there should be spaces. I think I could definitely do better than I'm doing now, but that's definitely something I'm conscious of. I think if someone else were to work on this code, how can I make it easier for them to understand what it is that I'm trying to do? I know I don't sound like a guy who needs a power nap. I don't sound like a guy who's been, wow, I can't even do the math right now. I'm tired. Let's do the math. So 14 plus 7 21 hours. I have been coding